welcome our audience. And guess what? This is our first time. So we are just being real here. We're really excited to have you join us. First episode, TMF Warrior. I am Coach Chuck. I am here with my dear friends and fellow coaches, Wilk and Hammer. They're going to introduce themselves in a minute. We're coming on June, man. June is right around the corner, which is the midway point of the year. So
It
the
is.
question that started us off on wanting to have this conversation is this idea of, as we think about the mid-year, does that mean you're halfway? Mid-year check-in. Let me ask you, are you kicking butt and taking names? The goals that we set
I
for
wish.
ourselves for 2025, we're
Yeah.
almost halfway through the year. Does that mean we're almost halfway through realizing our goals?
That's a good one.
Good point.
Right? Well, and how's the question? And so I think here's the good one. The question would be, we all have this energy on January 1st, right? Whether it's setting New Year's resolutions or casting vision, making goals, there's always an energy on January 1st and excitement and optimism. And the question is, do we still have that same energy, that same optimism, the same intensity that we had on January 1st?
Yeah, good
And
point.
I would like to explore today, right? Is if
That's
not,
it.
why not? And how can we make it so?
I don't think
I love
people
it.
really know why not.
Yeah.
Maybe some don't. I don't know.
All right. I think
We
it's a
gonna
fair
find out.
question. I think I've got some, I don't have, I'm not sitting here with a stack of books or scientific reports that have the answer, but I got a little bit of,
You got a lot of that, Chuck. You got a lot, bro.
so maybe just, speaking from that, let's dive in on it. So so to our audience, welcome to our first episode of the to be named later, our working title, TMF Warrior podcast.
Yes, that's who we are, baby.
Right. And what we are about is learning to live on the right frequency. What does that mean? Well, stay tuned. We're going to be able to talk about that too. I'm Coach Chuck, and I just would like to welcome you, tell you that I feel really, really privileged to be in this small community with my fellow hosts here. And we are so excited to bring TMF Warrior to you guys. And with that, Wilk, Hammer, why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
You're the man.
Okay, I am Coach Wilk, Navy veteran. I've been friends with Coach Hammer for over 33 years.
Awesome.
So I am blessed to be here. Hope to just be vulnerable, authentic, and just be myself.
Hey guys, thank you, Wilk. I love it. Yes, my brother right there. Known him a long time. We didn't have any gray hair back in those days.
No, I don't have any hair now, so that's why I'm wearing that.
You've got some gray hairs, man.
Right here, but not on top of my head. Let me tell you.
Excited to be here. Coach Hammer, you can call me Hank Hammer, whatever. Call me for dinner, man. I eat really well. Been a happily married man of 35 years. Beautiful 4 kids. I came up with this concept a few years ago, but it was Chuck that really got me motivated. We can talk more in another episode, but today's focused on another reason. But we'll give you our story, the 3 of us, here in the coming weeks. We're excited to tell you more about who we are as a men's group, a brotherhood, really. It's more. But Chuck, I can't wait to hear more what you've got. Chuck is hosting the show today.
Amen.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's go.
And so as part of that, I was on a walk and talk with a good friend and a mentor of mine. Man, this is 2016, or 9 years ago. And he asked me, what kills you? What kills you and what thrills you were the 2 questions he asked.
Yeah.
And the answer was to the what kills you question was default living. It's when we live that life of get up, go to work,
Yeah,
come
that's true.
home, kiss the spouse, walk the dog, eat dinner,
Yeah.
watch TV, go to bed, do it again. I really firmly believe that we were made for so much more. So the answer to the question of what thrills you was this idea of living life by design, recognizing that we're here on purpose, for a purpose, and we need to get about it. What does that mean? That means figuring out who we are and then living fully into that. So
Yeah.
that question that we opened up with, this idea of halfway through the year, are we halfway through working toward our goals, or are we starting to maybe fall back into those default ruts? And that's what they are.
Yeah.
That's what they are. They become ruts, the rituals that just become a habit that we just walk out, and it isn't always necessarily moving us toward the goal, right? So in my notes here, I wrote, it's common knowledge, the stuff of jokes even, that New Year's resolutions don't work, right? I mean, as soon as we talk about New Year's resolution, everybody rolls their eyes. Is that true?
Yep.
We have good intentions. I think people don't like setting them because we have this expectation of what the results should be and not realizing the work we have to do.
Yeah, I'll share in that myself. I just tried to start this keto diet, this low carb diet. A whopping 9 days later, what am I going to? I'm picking up big chicken biscuits for the wife and I at Chick-fil-A this morning. I'm like, well, what do you want? And she goes, Well, it would be really good to have a chick biscuit. And of course, now we're already in May, and I'm not saying I even started this in January. No way. I started this 10 days ago. And yeah, I feel a little thinner, but I got to be honest with you. I couldn't say no to the wife, so I went and picked it up. Today we're celebrating, by the way, guys, we're celebrating my wife's birthday, 29 again, 29 years old. We're going to
Awesome.
take her out for a little bit of lunch and have a good time. But it's like, you make these, I'm going to be committed, and then what happened? And yeah, so it is. We all struggle with it.
And so the thought there too is Wilk was talking about why we don't do it, and it's because I think we've all experienced disappointment in the past,
Yeah.
right? But the
Yeah.
question is, why do we? I think the first question for me anyway is to think about, why do we continue to set New Year's resolutions or make plans and set goals and everything? And a couple words that I think are, the first one is most important, is that it's hope. It's
Mm.
hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really, man, it's as hard as maybe the last season, the last year, or the last decade. And there's a level of hope. There's an optimism that maybe the next year is gonna be the year. It's gonna be a year we turn the corner, whether that's with our health, our relationships, our finances, whatever. There's hope, right? And there's
Yeah.
optimism. There's
Yeah.
a belief that maybe that it could be a desire.
And can I say something about that hope? I like to
Please.
call it the vision. The hope and the vision are combined together. They're weaved together. That hope gives you a vision, and that vision gives you the sense of compellingness to keep moving forward. Without a vision, without a lack of knowledge, and it starts with hope. Agree, 100% with you, Chuck.
Oh my gosh. That's so, and my favorite definition of vision is
Yeah.
tomorrow's reality expressed as an idea today.
Mm,
Tomorrow's
I love that.
reality expressed as an idea today.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
We are unique. This blew my mind the first time I heard this many years ago. We're unique in all of the universe and ability to see a tomorrow that's different than today.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right? I mean, a tree. How does a tree worship God? A tree worships God by being a tree, and that's a beautiful thing. A tree is just a tree, and in that, it glorifies our Creator. Think about our dogs, man. When they're sleeping and their paws are going, and then maybe even barking in their sleep because they're chasing that squirrel in their dreams. They
Oh,
can
yeah.
they can dream. But guess what? It's not like the Wile E. Coyote chasing the Roadrunner. Like, there is no
Right.
army order to, get the Roadrunner trap delivered. Animals just continue to operate in instinct, but
They
we
do.
get to past vision to see a tomorrow that's different. But that's that idea of hope and optimism. So vision is this idea of a preferred future. That's a beautiful thing. And when this was for me, I have it in my notes from 2012. It was a beautiful conversation with a friend of mine. But what came out of the conversation, in my notes, I'd written, I forgot how to dream. He asked me about my dreams for the future, and I couldn't answer. I was in such reactive mode. I was in survival mode, and that was a turning point for me all those years ago, to say, oh yeah, this is not the road, this is not the rut that I want to stay in. So this
Yeah.
idea of casting vision, and then the question is, what are we gonna do about
Can
it?
I share something on that too? I don't want to
Please.
cut you off, Wilk. Coach
No,
Wilk.
no, go.
The hammer's got a little tidbit here. He's going to hit the hammer and share something.
Huh?
It goes back to the book, one of the books that I've written. You guys have all read, and I'm so glad we all are on the same page of the vision we have here. That book, The One Day Gift, said life is like an American football game. And I go through those phases, if you guys recall, where it's the first quarter is sort of a rookie, and second quarter is a starter, and then at a midpoint halftime, you're going, this game isn't that easy to win, right? But then you go to that third quarter of veteran, and the three of us are veterans right now in that game of life, and we're in that place. And for us, it's one of the things I've learned is this: if I'm going to be able to achieve all of those goals and visions that I paint, I realize that I can't do it alone. And I realize I need the power of a band of brothers around me like you guys. And thank God for you guys, because without you guys, TMF wouldn't be existing right now. And then to take it a step further, that power of knowing that, you got your co-pilot at all times in the Lord. And God's there cheering us on. He's our greatest cheerleader. And he wants us to.
I totally agree. I think sometimes we get lost in the woods or in the weeds. We allow doubt to start setting in, and that, the devil will plant that negative thought in your head. And before you know it, all the vision that you had or anything that you wanted to do seems to be, you just lost all your energy. So I agree with you on that one, Hank.
Yeah.
Oh, just a quick little note, humorous, maybe, if nothing else. I saw a bumper sticker once years ago, and it said hammer there, that if God is your co-pilot, you're in the wrong seat. So maybe that'd be the one adjustment I'd make. What you just said. It's like if I can be the co-pilot and God is directing
Switch
my
seats.
car,
Switch a
I'll
seat
switch
every
seats.
day.
I'll switch seats.
Actually, because a lot of times you do say to yourself, God's my co-pilot, but really what we need to do is just go, I relinquish the controls of the plane
Come
and let
on.
him fly it because
Yeah.
we do a lot better job. And you guys know this, right? We've all sensed this in life, but I got to tell you this, and I don't want to divert from what you're leading us on today, Chuck, because it's so good. But the idea of listening and hearing that split second faster than the speed of light, it's like conversation that comes to your voice. And I'll share, things like that. I don't want to go into too much detail, but one of the things that just happened yesterday, I got out. And yeah, as you guys know, I do some voiceover work, and my voice has been heard a couple of places. And this guy go up to the Starbucks.
They're gonna know who it is now when they see this. They're gonna like, oh, I
They're gonna know
know
now. Much. I'm not saying too much, but I do some voiceovers. We'll call that. And on social media, different things, you might hear this voice. But I went to get Starbucks. A young gentleman was there, and instantaneously, a situation where he defined himself as they them, Taylor they them, and the Lord said, he's my son, and I love him. And I thought, wow, how beautiful that is. And I approached that with such just a kindness. And one of the things, Chuck, we say here a lot is, what's the warrior creed? What are we supposed to act like? And one of the things we need to do is act on the frequency of a warrior. And a warrior doesn't go, oh, boy, what does it mean, they, them, what is that? We intend to say, okay, this gentleman is still God's child, and I'm going to show kindness, forgiveness, and love. And I just showed love, not forgiveness, but kindness and love, because he was just being a very nice man. And I said, hey, Taylor, we started talking. And I don't know. And he goes, how's your day today? I said, oh, I just got back from the studio doing some voiceover. He goes, oh, you do that? It's cool. Long and short is, I just had a nice conversation. And I said to him, it's really cool. I said, and by the way, you've got a really great voice yourself. And it made his day. It just made kindness. So as we go through the goals of our life, I think, Chuck, for me, it's like, how can I go out every day and live it like an adventure the way, our pilot wants us to live it? And that's how you fulfill goals, by seeing every day as an adventure. And he's going to lead us. A lot of times we think we know where we're going to go. It doesn't. But it still can be a great, successful day.
Can I just say one quick thing?
Please.
I want to applaud what you talked about, kindness, because that is something that I have been researching in regards to what culture says niceness is versus what the kingdom says, what God says, and I think a lot of times in culture, if you are feeling a certain way, you don't have you got to suck it up. Sometimes you rely on church and they may tell you maybe your faith isn't that strong, when in all it's not that. It's just, you're just human and you're going through some things. So I like the fact that you talked about kindness, because I think that's something is really needed now with everything that's going on. We just need to be more tolerant of one another and be more kind to each other.
I love it.
No, you guys, I'm like, okay, there's another episode. It's like everything,
Got it written out. I've written it up.
everything in the media, everything in the news is frankly, it's all about sensationalism, because that's stuff.
It is,
right?
yeah.
And the way to sell it is to create division. And so this idea of, instead of buying into that, is this idea, what if instead we looked at it as, I firmly believe you could put a room full of people together that have differing worldviews and they would get along, because if they come with the desire to get along, because at the end of the day, what we typically want tends to look the same, right? It's like our version of success might be different, but it comes down to that idea of if we're children, we know that our parents want a better life for us than they had, and we want that for our kids. And this idea of kindness is this idea of wanting to just kind of share space with people and to be able to be loved and to love, to be valued, feel valued, and to show value. That is really more, I think, would be the norm, as opposed to everything in the media would tell us differently. The media is trying to convince us that we are all very different and we need to almost like hate each other. And that's so sad, but we digress. I do feel like there's this beautiful marriage of the topic today about this idea of setting and realizing goals and things like that. And Hank, when you're talking about the the 4 quarters rather of life,
Yeah,
and
4 quarters.
thinking about the young men that may be listening, is the idea the first quarter is going to tend, first and second quarter anyway, is going to tend to look a lot like figuring out who am I, and then who are we in terms of maybe my family structure. Maybe it's getting
Yep.
married and having kids, and then what does it look like in terms of what is success. And so we start striving to build a career, maybe to buy the house, to get our kids into the right school. So those kinds of things, and those are all really important, as long as and then this is the marriage of the ideas of, you're talking about that moment between stimulus and response. We can get
Right.
caught up in the trappings of chasing
Oh yeah.
success as the world defines it. And that is go to school, get good
Yeah.
grades, get the good job, buy the big house. But if we're missing on the other side of the question, who's the Lord say I am?
Mm.
What are my
Yeah.
gifts and my talents? If I'm really here on purpose, for a purpose, getting back to that stimulus and response thing, we can get
Yeah.
so caught up in the trappings of the things I'm supposed to care about.
And
And
can I go back
instead,
just? Go
That's
ahead.
so
instead,
good.
if we get to that place of the power in the pause is stimulus, and then there's a moment that I
Mhm.
get to choose. And we tend to either react selfishly, or we can respond in a way that would say, what is compassion? What is kindness? What is service? What does love look like in this? And man, we start to do that.
Life is so much more of an adventure at that point. I'll go back to something you just said, Chuck, that really resonated with me. When I think about our men on this earth, and guys, this podcast this is not an American podcast. This isn't a United States podcast. This is a worldwide fellowship brotherhood of men. We call it the TMF. It stands for the manhood frequency. And you can see right there, it says living life on the right frequency. I think you guys can see it on my screen, right?
Yeah.
Well, and so it's that living that we live around here. And it really goes back to what you were just saying about pausing and waiting. And it's the warrior creed we have around here. If you're, as a man, knowing that your life isn't fulfilled the way you want, and maybe you're stuck here 6 months into this year, and you're like, I've got to feel like there's something of more purpose and more of a guidance that I need to be driven. Hey guys, we feel that way too. But what we're starting to recognize in our little, platoon of gathering of men each week as we talk is that the reality is to be a warrior is we live life on a bit of a different frequency. And what the world says is success, I think you're going to find around on this show, right, Chuck, is that we think a different way. I mean, everything you're saying is, but most people would say, well, you got to make this money and you got to do this. And we're saying, we're sort of old guys here. We're not 25 anymore. So we're not, we've been around, guys. And guys 25 and younger and 18 and over, we want you on here. We want you to learn from guys who made mistakes like us. And we're going to talk about some of those stories, which are going to be crazy. But I will tell you what, Chuck, you're saying resonates with me because it's all part of, I want to be a warrior. I want to be a TMF warrior. And I want to change the way I've been living my life. And
okay, so I feel like too, like here's the opportunity to kind of define warrior, because we just say the word. I think maybe we tend to think battle, foxholes, bullets, and but the TMF warrior, as we want to define it here, is the guy that I just described a minute ago, that is going to school and getting a job, building the career, finding the love of his life, getting married, maybe having kids. Every aspect of that, there's an element of being a warrior in that, right? And the world, again, going back to media and everything, you think about how men have been emasculated and all that kind of stuff. And what we're saying is true war, and like loving well, that's the stuff of warrior. Serving well, that's the stuff of warrior. Choosing the high road is the stuff of warrior. And to the 18 and 25-year-olds, man, it's like, yeah, you guys are looking to take the world by storm, and we applaud you. We've been there, done that. But looking back, if
Got the
there is
t-shirt.
exactly been there, done that, and if there, I hate to use the regret word, but man, if I had to just put it into like 2 different compartments, the stuff of regret really comes down to, it's when the arrows were turned in, and the things that I am most thankful for is when the arrows were turned out. And now maybe this is this opportunity to talk about when we talk about living on the right frequency, I think it fits here. I'm using the analogy of arrows, but
I like it.
in the
I like it.
TMF
Warriors
Warrior,
use
we talk
arrows.
about
Yeah.
warriors. Yeah, warriors use
Yeah.
arrows,
Yeah.
and so, but for our audience to understand, when we talk about living on the right frequency, it's about on the one end of the dial, are we living on the me frequency? On the other end of the dial, are we living on the he frequency, which is about learning to love well,
Love
to
it.
live purposeful,
Yeah.
to live a life of service. So
Can I
I don't
just
know
add
if
one thing to that?
please.
But it, I like how this whole conversation has gone from the vision to help to, things with TMF Warrior. But I feel that sometimes when we discussed earlier about setting goals or resolutions and things like that, for some reason the word motivation kept coming up to me. And I happened to look down and I do have my book, James Clear, Atomic Habits, but he talked about motivation. Like we may think that we lack motivation, but it's actually we need clarity on things. So I think a lot of times when it goes back to that question is like, what do God think of you? I had to literally sit down and just ask for help. I had to learn how to be vulnerable in front of people that may think of you one way, but you being vulnerable now, you're feeling some kind of way because now you think they may think of you differently. My definition of a warrior is how can you be authentic, real, vulnerable, and just put yourself out there for people to care about you and to help you in any kind of way possible.
So, the word that just came up to me in that is resilience. And it's this idea of, if you think of the warrior, the man at war, literal war,
Yeah.
to be resilient is to continue to move ahead when everything is coming against him.
Awesome.
That's life too, Wilk.
Yeah.
Everything you just said is this idea of living resilient. It's about continuing to move forward, to take new territory, and to do it in a way that honors yourself. This is who I am. This is how I'm wired. These are my gifts and my talents. These are my passions. These are my dreams. These are my visions. And the resilience, the perseverance to continue to move ahead. I love the word motivation, but I also know that motivation it wanes, right? It leaks.
Exactly.
But this idea of choosing resilience, it's like feelings lie. I don't always feel like fighting another day. I don't feel like fighting for the win, but resilience says it's not about feeling. And I like the idea too that feelings do follow action. So it's not about feeling
Exactly. Yeah.
necessarily. It's about choosing. It's about the
Yeah.
integrity and the discipline. Okay, guys. So we are I'm just thinking that in the spirit of time, here's our audience. Bad news, good news. The bad news is we're running out of time. We're not getting to the answers that I wanted to give you as far as how to finish the year strong. A couple things I'm going to throw out just real quick is Simon Sinek famously says why. He talks about got to start with why. Got to have a strong why. My friend and mentor actually wrote a book called Why is Greater Than What. The why fuels. One of my favorite quotes of his is, we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our habits. So we want to realize our goals and such, guys, the audience here, man, we got to understand that we have to have a really strong why, and then that will fuel the what. And when we know why and what, we'll know how. And a lot of that how is making sure that we're moving away from bad habits. We're either creating or we're solidifying the good habits. How do you finish well? But the good news is, maybe I could just leave. I have a couple questions I'm going to invite you to wrestle with, because it gets the idea of, if you're going to have goals, they need to be worthwhile. You need to fuel the what. The fuel, the why has to be so strong. So the first question simply is this, guys. Am I? Who am I? Now, it's taken me a long time, but I would love to be able to confidently answer that question. I am an adopted son of the Most High God, and that He loves me and He chose me because He loves me, and He chose me. It's not anything I've done. He's chosen to love me. And then I am blessed to be the husband of the wife of my youth. I'm on 39 years. And then father and grandfather. And then it's about vocation, avocation. So this idea of this is I'm not telling you this is right for everybody, but I'm telling you, this is when I think who I am. I feel like these are the things and this is the order. To the audience, I would ask you to be courageous and get real, get raw, with that question, who am I? Because a lot of us, the who am I is what we have bought into the idea of what others would want for us. That could be our parents, it could be our friends, it could be the world around us. So who am I? And then when you get clear on that, we could answer the next question, which is, what do I want? What do I want? Because again, it's easy to answer it with, I want the house, I want the job, I want the beautiful wife, I want the perfect kids. But really, based on the who am I, what if you got really real and asked the question, what do I want? Because for some people, it's going to look like a whole lot different than the career and the house and whatever. And then, why don't I have it? Why don't I have it? Getting real and raw again with maybe, like, I don't know that any of us ever made a misstep and got off the. Why don't
Okay.
I have it? So the things that have come against us or the obstacles that have come against us, the decisions that we've made that led us the other way. And I think I've got three more, but I'm going to put a period on it right there. I believe if you guys, if we were to sit with those three questions first, it'll bring us like some great clarity about how do we then take it from here? How do we cast vision based on the answers of those questions? And then once we cast that vision, we could then make a plan, and the plan will define the goals. The goals will allow us to create strategy. We got to create our support system, our brotherhood, to box the last 5 minutes. But my heart as a
Good
coach,
stuff.
guys,
Good
my
stuff.
heart of a coach as a coach is to rail against the idea of living the default life and helping people move to what I believe is an incredible blessing, is to live a life of intentional design. And then if I can put my faith hat on, to say for his glory and for the good of those that we serve. And guess what? In the middle of that, we will be tremendously blessed as well.
We are a brotherhood of men that want other men to join us. If you want to be part of that warrior creed, you just heard from three men who have learned to have to be real and raw if we're going to be rebuilt. That's our theme. You can see it here on on the emblem. And if you haven't been to our website, love to have you there at TMF-Warrior. It's that easy. We're coming out with a mobile app in the coming weeks, months, hopefully weeks. And there's just a lot going on, but starts here. It starts with our content. We talk about the 5 C's. If you guys like it, if you're watching from any of the social media outlets, give us a thumbs up that you like and subscribe. We'd love to have you join us and keep watching, because we believe that there's a lot of men out there throughout this world